Welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies, and welcome to some kind of BF 109. Welcome to Wolvy in, what is this, the BF 109K, I think? I'm not super familiar with the later variants of the 109. I fell in love with the F4, and with its incredible ability to just delete the competition, its perfect energy fighting playstyle, and the incredible power of the 20 mil mounted in the nose. I mean, do you even need another BF 109? And as I've mentioned, it seems like the higher up in War Thunder I go in terms of BR and tier, the less enjoyment I get out of the game. Certain exceptions apply. However, you're going to see Wolvy having a good old time avoiding, yes he is indeed, wisely, the head-on with the F82, which is just two P51s flex taped together. Wouldn't want the thing flying apart in high G maneuvers. And commonly equipped with the 50 cal gun pod that gives it a ludicrous burst mass, volume, and rapidity that should be no surprise. Well, if it is a surprise, it is a brief one. Setting alight both engines, that F82 is definitely going down. Wolvy avoided the head-on wisely, because if you face one of those, it will just laser beam you into non-existence. Now, two enemies passing in front. Wolvy again pulling a rolling maneuver to avoid direct line of sight with them, but still leave the option of a quick follow-up open. The BF 109K with very fast vertical moves, able to get guns on the P47 just before his wing-mounted 50 cals could find a target. And another P47 now turning with just a tiny bit of vertical variance, not nearly enough to shake a 109. Wolvy scooping up 2 kills off of his teammate's tail, nicely playing that teamwork game that the Germans are famous for. And here's what I'm famous for: not editing my videos. There I am trying to bring up the map to give you a better idea of the furball that's going on here. But the idea is German teams tend to do very well when they stay near enough to each other to have local numbers advantage. In fact, any team can do well playing that way. The Japanese tend to use the same tactic, but they get boom and zoomed by Americans who can fly much faster than them. And once you learn to cut through the Japanese formation without committing to any turn fights, as an American, you can easily handle your foe. Not so easy against the energy fighting Germans, who as soon as they build an altitude advantage, which they commonly start with, can clean up the floor with your lower aircraft, even if you can fly faster in a straight line as an American. The Germans will dive on you and take you down with extreme prejudice, making group fighting tactics all the more effective for the Germans, who can maintain and regain an energy advantage with such reliability against the competition. In other words, if you learn to fight as a group of 3 or 4 people, even to do so with people that you've been randomly paired with, not only will you find such a strategy highly effective on the German team, you will find like-minded individuals on that same playing field in many random battles in War Thunder, this being just such a one. Wolvy picking up at least 3 of his 4 kills by shooting down enemies that were focusing on someone else. at the time, and indeed not a lot you can do. As I've mentioned, these German aircraft, with their incredible dive speeds, their good climb rates, and their deadly guns, require you to deal with them in the places where they can be found. It's not always an option to dive away, especially in a Soviet aircraft like the Yak, that handles well one-on-one, especially at low altitudes, but commonly finds itself in an opposite encounter facing 3 or 4 German and Italian energy fighters who can drain him of his health and quickly dispatch the less capable fighter at many altitudes, even where the Yak has an energy production advantage at low altitude. It only takes a few turns to start to bleed off enough of your energy that a second player, an interloper, can easily come in and take you down, and yet that also requires an aggressive style of gameplay. When you see an ally engaging, you ditch your altitude for speed, you get there as soon as you can, and you take down as many of the enemy as possible. There is a tension between supporting your teammates and putting yourself in what would be a personally good position for you. Wolvy showing his maturity here in the game of War Thunder, trading his altitude advantage for speed to get to the battlefield where his ally is engaged and scoop up a 5th kill in this match, showing us why paying attention to what your teammates are getting into is such a reliable strategy. Again, if you can maintain high speeds and spend that energy even repositioning to a new area of the map to support your teammates, sometimes the stat card is not the only thing that determines how well a team can do. The German aircraft, I believe this is the Bf-109K. There are a few variants out there. There's Gs that I don't know, and there's Ks that I don't know, and that's just okay with me, G. Yeah, I'm terrible. But the German Bf-109s and Focke-Wulfs both are fantastic for a team fighting scenario. You can have a turning advantage against a slow P-47 or Mustang. You have an energy production advantage that's just enough to enable you to be flexible with your strategy. And when many players on your team know they have that strategic flexibility, you can do some incredible things. It's almost like an aerial blitzkrieg, achieving local numbers superiority and eating up the enemy forces one piece at a time. Now that the enemy team is brought low and slow and few in numbers, Wolvy, with 6 kills, is able to play even more aggressively, to focus on his personal goals, to find enemies and assassinate them, still avoiding the head-on. As a seasoned Bf-109 pilot, he knows that there is an advantage to maneuvering with the enemy and not going for those easy shots. This P-47 showing that the Jug, even though a huge aircraft, heavy and bulky, still has some moves at low speed. Its large wings and its capable flaps in the hands of a skilled and experienced pilot can perform some pretty incredible maneuvers for the size of the aircraft. But my friend, therein lieth the rub. You do maneuver and you bleed off that energy in the first pass. In the second pass, it looks like you might beat the 109, and then the 109 comes through in round 2 and takes you down. All it takes is a quick spurt from those cannons mounted through the engine, and you will shortly be re-examining your strategy in the hangar or screaming in Cyrillic in personal chat, depending upon your own preferred method of dealing with defeat. My recommendation, P-47 pilot, getting a little bit creative there, going inverted. Not sure exactly what he was going for, but maybe he was trying to pull off a certain maneuver with his elevator, and the damage to his aircraft caused him to do a silly roll instead. I can definitely relate to that. In fact, the A2D suffers from that quite heavily. The airframe capable of tanking incredible amounts of damage, and yet, as soon as you decide to use your elevator, especially in a steep dive, if you have even orange wing damage on one side, it can just cause you to smack into the ground, to flip over and smash into the terrain instead of maneuvering. I don't know how accurate that is, but again, learn. The American aircraft, very capable. The German aircraft, very capable. Each pilot, knowing their strengths and weaknesses, can pull off incredible things individually, and I'd say that this level of War Thunder Air RB is a very competitive scene where skill definitely pays off. No guided missiles here to take things out of your hands. If you're gonna shoot somebody down, it's cannons or psychology to get them to crash themselves and nothing else. This is a tier where less often you have to rely on luck, and yet it truly is fortuitous to have great team support, and that is traditionally one of those things that you have found at this level in German aircraft. Between the Bf-109s and the Focke-Wulfs, these are aircraft that hit hard but require you to know what to do. Great opportunity for teamwork. Now, let's talk about individual play and QWERTYs on the American team with the M8, a scout car, armored car with the ubiquitous 37mm anti-tank gun and a 50 cal mounted on top. Again with the ubiquity here, but you can find them everywhere aboard American vehicles, and as a constant player of American ground forces, I have fallen in love in flying CAS. I fly in fear of the American 50 cal mounted on the roof. The M8 at such a low battle rating that even the roof-mounted anti-aircraft machine gun can provide very capable anti-tank support fire. Interestingly enough, the 50 cal, the Browning M2, was originally envisioned as a heavy machine gun that could potentially be capable of dealing with tanks and armored vehicles. And such truly is the case when using armor-piercing ammunition, but it's not the kind of thing you want to rely on. The M8 delivers in that regard with its very capable, for its battle rating, 37mm cannon, incredible reload rate, good gun handling, fantastic mobility of the vehicle, and even a decent amount of survivability. The armor itself not providing a lot of protection, but the lack of armor providing a bit of protection. I'm not going to say no armor is best armor, but maybe space is... Oh, as that Italian crew gets launched into low Earth orbit, they might just have enough velocity to avoid Il Duce's disappointed glare, proving that the American vehicles were probably a bit more capable of waging war than the Italian ones. But that may be an issue for another time. QWERTYs is going to have a fantastic match here, and I've just left the UI off for all of you and I to enjoy the beauty of this game for a while. We're all very familiar with... Is that the whole machine gun? It is! The whole machine gun works on the M8 Scout car. That's awesome! Anyway, we're all familiar with QWERTY's shenanigans and his skills that he builds in high tier and then brings into some nice, fun, relaxing, fast-paced, just go be derpy rounds of low tier gameplay. He's gonna pick up at least a dozen kills in this match, I think, if I recall correctly. It's been a while, but this is just feel-good Thunder at this point. We were talking team tactics. You made Spider-Man webs? I'm proud of you, baby. Brooklyn, my 2-year-old, is... she's sick, and you can hear how stuffed up her nose is. I'm assuming you can hear how stuffed up her nose is. Yesterday, she was on the couch all day in her little fortress of blankets, watching her tablet, and I was like, you know what? She usually like runs around and plays more, and maybe I need to like encourage her to get up. But no, she's sick. She has a cold, so she's just extra lazy, and that's fine. That's normal. And she still gets a little stir crazy and has to jump up and go do some cooking, or she'll make toys for herself. She cut the hair of one of her dolls yesterday. So she's in the tub and she's all proud. She's like, daddy, haircut. she just pulled the hair off of one of her dolls. I think she used some tongs to do it, some little plastic tongs. The girl's got some incredible grip strength. Anyway, that has very little to do with what's going on here in War Thunder, but it feels good to watch my kids growing and just being creative and destructive at the same time. And that's exactly what QWERTYs is doing here. Hopefully, this video can give you a little bit of evidence for why I and QWERTYs both love American low tiers so much. It's definitely a fun tier for me. You can derp around in the low rank vehicles. You get the lowest battle rating stabilizers in the game on some of the American light tanks. Extremely fast firing gun, good armor penetration qualities, even decent armor for some of the light tanks. You can see a bit of survivability here as QWERTYs manages to absorb a couple of hits, and for a light tank that's already enough. Anything more is certainly asking too much and an opportunity to reevaluate your tactics. But when you spawn in and there are 3 people looking at you immediately, it's a little bit less about tactics and a little bit more about tenacity. It does help that a lot of these enemies are going to be less experienced or in vehicles that are not quite so capable of dealing with the numbers game that American starter vehicles can handle so well. You see a lot of 20mm autocannons at this tier, and 20mm autocannons are very deadly for the first 500 yards or so. Out past that, and they're not quite so scary for anything that has 20mm of armor or so. And a lot of these low rank American light tanks between rank 1 and rank 2 can offer even up to double that amount of protection, giving you a tactical flexibility that you don't see quite so much. And again, talking flexibility here, you can see bouncing some 20mm shots, absorbing them with the armor. Not a major issue for this tank if it's not a continued assault. And the 37 does have some issues at longer ranges, dealing with complex armor, commonly bouncing off of slopes, often punching through a flat plate, only to deal very little post-penetration damage in an area that's not really essential to the proper function of the enemy vehicle. And yet all of these things taken together, combined with we'll say somewhat easier pickings at low tier, can make the American low tier forces extremely fun to play, and commonly a rewarding experience for people that finally just want to get some dang kills. And yet, here we see, even though QWERTY definitely knows his stuff, as he's demonstrated in video after video, I think that's the light tank you get for the War Thunder Starters pack, which is one of the best deals in War Thunder, by the way. It goes on sale fairly often as well. I think that's on Steam. But even though QWERTY knows his stuff, he still gets killed again and again, proving that skill matters for quite a deal in War Thunder, but it's really tenacity that pays off. And I couldn't really tell you what lesson to learn from that experience other than get out of your spawn as quickly as possible. Because especially at low tier, the enemy will, it's a very spooky car, baby. The enemy will chase you down and gut you like a fish if they know they can find you near your spawn. On top of that, keeping an awareness of where your team is and where your team is not anymore because they've been wiped is also helpful. Sometimes you're going to get onto a map where you're just going to have to jump into a brawl, and sometimes you're just crazy like Cordy's is and you relish the opportunity to go 1-on-4. But if you're not looking to get group assaulted by several armored vehicles at once, then maybe try finding different routes to the areas you want to be. Again, here, this American light tank, I think it's one of the stewards, I don't know, M2A4, M1A5, the designations, they slip from my brain. It has been a while since I played these tiers. And yet, what I'm saying is, they can bounce a shot every now and then. They can take a hit. With 5 crew in this tiny tank, they even have a few spare people on hand in case Jimmy or Johnny get wounded. Wounded, I tell you. And that's not to say that America is the only place you can find some fun in low tier. I dare say almost all of the low tier vehicles are fun and encouraging to play. Again, if you're an experienced player, it's like a vacation. If you're new to the game, it's obligatory unless you want to buy a high tier premium, something I really wouldn't recommend. Find the fun in low tier. There are lessons to be learned. There are much harsher, less forgiving tutors in the higher tiers. And, well, this is where you can build your skills very well in War Thunder. You need to aim. You need to estimate ranges accurately. You have lots of chances to adjust your fire with this quick reload, and America is not the only tree that offers this experience. In fact, it's a similar experience for most of the nations in War Thunder. These quick, nimble vehicles with fast-firing guns that don't have the highest velocity, so you have to aim and calculate and adjust. And then there's the French, and they're pretty much just horrible. Armor may be a little bit better on some of the vehicles than a lot of the other low-tier nations, but commonly not enough to tip the scales if you don't play them properly. And yet, even with the underpowered French guns, which is really the major issue with their low tier, things can still be accomplished. In any event, I've rambled quite a bit for this video, so thanks for watching this one. I'm not quite wrapping things up yet, but I appreciate you sticking around is what I wanted to say. I am still looking for ways to improve my Discord, which is the main way that I get in touch with you guys. And mostly, I want to keep it really casual, but also, I don't know, just make it a place that you all like to be. I've been thinking about things like how often I ping people, so I mean, this is just current events, so I thought I'd share it in a video with you guys. I don't get onto voice channels as much as I used to because I really do have to listen for what my kids are doing all the time because they will harm themselves or others if I don't pay proper attention. At least I assume the danger's there. It's one of those things where you don't want to, find out that you didn't pay enough attention to your kids. You want to pay attention to your kids so that you just don't ever have to be in the position where you're like, oh God, I didn't know because I wasn't watching, or at least listening. So things like being active in a voice channel, I love talking with you guys. It's just not something I do as often anymore, and I miss it. I miss talking to you guys. So maybe that's why I'm mentioning it in a video here. For those of you that are new to the channel, well, you know what? This is sort of setting expectations. I made my YouTube channel. I started this, and every day that I do YouTube stuff, which is pretty much every day, I do it because this is my social life. I am sort of a willing prisoner in my own home, because I'm raising 2 girls, and my wife we got another child coming on the way. We're about a third of the way toward releasing that one, and I'll let you know when we find out boy or girl. That's going to be really exciting. But I didn't really have a super complicated social life before this. I like to have a close group of friends that I can really interact with, and if I don't have to leave my house to interact with them, all the better. But I definitely, even more as the years have gone by, the most valuable thing in the world is people. And as soon as you realize that, then life just gets a whole lot simpler. Anyway, stuff for people and not people for stuff. I love seeing you guys and hanging out with you. I find each and every one of you interesting, and it's always worthwhile to connect with you guys. If I can do more than just talk into the microphone, if I can hear some feedback from you all in the comments or talking to me in the Discord, really there's pretty much the Discord is the best place to get a hold of me, because I'm a busy guy. I don't even answer my phone as much as I check the Discord, so that's the best place. And on top of that, you can meet all of the other people that I've grown so fond of over the how long have we had that thing running? Over a year, at least. And I have loved it every day and enjoyed it most days. Anyway, all that is to say, there is a link to the Discord if you're new in the description of this video, and you're welcome to come hang out with us. You can see that I feature replay videos, and we've just been enjoying this replay sent in by QWERTYs. It's nice to get all of the mess of the UI off of the screen and really see the incredible amount of detail this game has. I know there are areas that could use improvement, but just look at how far it's come. Just adding sparks to the game and more sexy fire effects has really made this a visually satisfying experience, and there's all kinds of stuff coming in the future as well, I'm sure. Anyway, this video is finally winding down to a close, so thanks for hanging out with me this long. I'm also grateful that my kids gave me a chance to make this one. Little baby Zoe has been taking a nap for a while, and Brooklyn's got a little head cold, so she's a little bit lower energy today, but she gave me some time to talk. Anyway, guys, I enjoyed hanging out with you. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.